one of my first jobs as a professor was in New York from 67 to 70, and I was surrounded by all kinds of experimental work on the one hand I saw Grotowski's Polish Lab Theater and met him when he came into New York in 67, I guess it was, and saw the work of the Open Theater and got to know well Julian Beck and Judith Moline and the Living Theater. So I had all of that stuff going on, but at the same time was trained traditionally as a director who respected the text. I mentioned during my acceptance speech for the Career Achievement Award yesterday, I had a chance to work with Howard Bay, which was a monumental experience for me. So that production was a production of Oedipus Rex that we did together. And I recall flying to New York and doing prep work with Howard and coming up with concepts and so forth. So that was one of the highlights of my directing career, working with him and seeing how he worked as an artist, which was phenomenal to me. As you mentioned a minute ago, I had an opportunity to direct a show in Moscow, which was an eye-opening experience. The actors that I worked with were top actors. The man who played the lead in the production is now the artistic director of the Moscow Art Theater, Oleg Tabakov, and working over there on a Neil Simon play was extraordinary for me. And they brought me back 2 years later when the show was running for 2 years, and it was touring to Leningrad at the time, St. Petersburg and Sochi and so forth, and they brought me in to retool the show and go on tour with them. And I'll never forget this. We were playing at one of these palaces of culture in Leningrad in an auditorium of 2,000 seats. The show was originally directed for a small theater of 150. So we're in this palace of culture, and it's filled with Russians. And at the final curtain, Tabakov, I was standing off stage, Tabakov brings me out, and I take a bow with the cast, and the Russian tradition of bringing flowers to the lead actor, the lead actress, was honored for me that night. And it was just extraordinary. I've done a couple of shows. Recently I did a production of The London Cuckolds for UNL in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I love that too because it gets me back into working with students. As you know, working in professional theaters is a different model than working in educational theater. You win some, you lose some, and being able to work with young actors is terrific. Leadership of ATHA, the presidents and vice presidents and so forth, we never took ourselves too seriously. We were always, kind of myth busters, if we could be. So some of the board meetings got pretty raucous, let's put it that way. One of the core values that defined ATHA in those days was looking upon itself as a true service organization. Distinction between patting oneself on the back for achieving some kind of status on the one hand, distinction between that and serving students and teachers. And for me, that was the core value of the beginnings of ATHA. How can this organization really be of service to people who are teaching in higher education? And how can, therefore, students across the country be served appropriately?